To start the session off is share the agenda with you guys so you know what's coming up. I'm going to start by briefly talking about Cisco Meraki to begin with, the technology, how we fit into Cisco's organization. We'll then move on to talking about the rise of SD-WAN and talking about some of the trends that are really driving this massive adoption of SD-WAN in the marketplace. We'll then move on to talking about Meraki SD-WAN, how that works, and then we'll follow that up with a live demonstration of the Meraki dashboard to see what Meraki SD-WAN looks like in there. So about Meraki then, well, you can think of Meraki as a cloud-managed IT division within Cisco. We have a complete cloud-managed IT solution comprising of wireless access points, switching, security, SD-WAN of course, intelligent network insights, endpoint management, as well as security cameras. Now all those technologies are integrated in terms of hardware, software, and cloud services associated with them in one very nice, clean, neat bundle. Meraki is the leader in cloud-managed IT, and we're actually one of Cisco's fastest growing portfolios. We have almost 400,000 unique customers globally. We have over 5 million Meraki devices online in the world today, and a growing part of our business, which is allowing customers to interact with the infrastructure that we have through APIs, application programmable interface. On that part of the business, we are now getting over 30 million API calls to the dashboard on average every day. That accounts for about roughly 20% of our customers choosing to interact with the infrastructure in that way. So let's start with what SD-WAN is. Well, it stands for Software-Defined Wide Area Networking, and it's actually a software-based approach for businesses to utilize and manage more than one external network connection, such as MPLS, broadband, fiber optic at a given location based on its performance. So with SD-WAN, network admins can define which WAN links an application should use, or they can set up rules for which link should be used based on its performance. So let's talk about the trends driving this huge growth of SD-WAN then. And really it's two main trends that are driving it. First of all, it's the increase in the amount of WAN bandwidth that's being required by businesses, a cumulative effect of more devices, increased usage of cloud-based applications in particular, as well as video streaming means that organizations have never required as much bandwidth as they do today. So here's some data points around the increased usage of SaaS applications, things like Office 365. Office 365 is probably one of the most widely mentioned applications when talking about SD-WAN. Salesforce, of course, Slack, Gmail, Dropbox, all are other examples. So the average number of SaaS applications being used per organization are obviously on the increase. In 2015, the number was around 8. Fast forward a couple of years to 2017, and it almost doubled to 16. The spend on SaaS applications also massively increasing, almost 95% in fact. The percentage of enterprise estimating when most of their business applications will be SaaS is also on an upward trend. In 2016, it was estimated to be just under 30%. Fast forward to 2023, and it's actually well over 80% of organizations estimating that 80% of their business apps will be SaaS. So as we discussed, this is having a knock-on effect on business traffic. So it's actually increasing the amount of WAN bandwidth required by businesses. So the global IP business traffic is on the up. So in 2016 compared to 2021, it's actually grown more than 2.5 times, a compound annual growth rate of over 20%. Global site-to-site business traffic is also increasing. So the pie chart on the bottom left, 2016 compared to 2021, the total size of the pie charts has increased, so the total amount of site-to-site bandwidth is increasing. But within that site-to-site business traffic is also SD-WAN. So in 2016, it accounted for around 6% of all global site-to-site business traffic. Fast forward to 2021, it accounts for almost a quarter of it. Now, if we compare the relative compound annual growth rates of total site-to-site business traffic, so the size of the total pie charts, that's growing at around 10%. But the SD-WAN traffic within that is growing at almost 50%. This is now actually causing a strain on premium WAN links, such as MPLS. So lower cost WAN links are actually becoming much more reliable. In the past, organizations have relied on premium WAN links such as MPLS to ensure highly predictable and reliable connectivity, as opposed to lower cost links such as broadband and fiber optic. However, these lower cost links have improved reliability and uptime to now be viable options for additional bandwidth capacity, or in some instances to replace MPLS altogether. So the average cost of MPLS, and this varies hugely depending on where in the world you are, is around $600 per megabit per second per month. So those legacy links such as MPLS are coming under increasing strain as a result of the growing business SaaS and site-side traffic, and so the increase in the capacity of private WAN links is cost prohibitive for most organizations. So what are future WAN options for organizations? Well, first option is simply increasing the size of your MPLS pipe, increasing the total amount of MPLS bandwidth that you have for your existing MPLS network. The second option is to add the additional bandwidth that's required using low-cost links such as broadband. So you can go ahead and then offload critical traffic from MPLS to broadband with policy-based routing. Or the third option is to move away from MPLS completely and replace that with two different broadband links. So you can have dual high-speed broadband connections, and then you can actually load balance business critical traffic based on policy or the performance of the link. And so it's options 2 and 3 that Meraki SD-WAN helps facilitate. So if we look at the average cost of broadband per month per megabit, it's around $15. Now compare that to MPLS, which is $600. Again, these things vary from region to region, but still there's a huge difference. So by allowing options 2 and 3, organizations can save a great deal of money while still satisfying the performance for cloud-based applications as well as the additional bandwidth capacity they need with Meraki SD-WAN. So what is Cisco SD-WAN then? It's a complete market-leading solution. So there are a few different ways Cisco SD-WAN can be delivered, powered by Meraki, of course, or powered by Viptela. So if you have customers that value extremely easy deployment, there is Meraki, and where there are instances, some customers may need advanced routing or segmentation, we have the option of powered by Viptela. And we have seen a growing trend, of course, also of hybrid deployments of Cisco SD-WAN, where it's powered by Meraki at the branch and powered by Viptela at the headquarters or data center. So how does Cisco SD-WAN powered by Meraki work? Well, first of all, it's delivered by very powerful hardware, and hopefully something that's quite familiar to you. It's delivered by the Meraki MX SD-WAN and security appliances. So some of the hardware highlights across all MX models. All models have 2 WAN ports. They also have 3G, 4G, or LTE USB as a single WAN or failover. We do also now have models with embedded LTE modems, so you can actually just pop in a nano SIM card, much like you would do in your smartphone, into the back of an MX to have that as a single WAN or a failover option. We have additional Ethernet ports on all MXs with PoE and PoE options, and we also have high availability mode. So that means you can have 2 MXs set up in warm spare, as we call it, so that if there was a hardware failure on the primary MX, it would fail over to the secondary one in warm spare mode. And across the portfolio, we also have automatic WAN failure. So if any one of your WAN links was to go down, it would automatically fail over to the other WAN link to provide connectivity, as well as re-establish VPN tunnels over that WAN link that you had on the primary. So Cisco SD-WAN powered by Meraki is securely built on site-side VPN technology. So what you can do is go ahead and create a VPN tunnel from a branch to a headquarters data center, each location having a Meraki MX. You can do this very, very easily, and we'll show this in the demonstration later. You can do this in a couple of clicks, and really by establishing that VPN tunnel, first of all, it's incredibly secure because it's a VPN tunnel, and it's essentially like creating a really long Ethernet connection between a branch site to headquarters. So everything else is automatically configured. This link is managed via the dashboard. And there's also redundancy built in. So any MXs with 2 uplinks will automatically self-heal to renegotiate VPN tunnels if a primary link goes down. So once those VPN tunnels are established, what we can now do is actually measure the performance of those tunnels. And we do this so around every second. So we measure the latency, jitter, packet loss, and MOS score for those VPN tunnels around every second, and then this is the data that we then use to make intelligent decisions about WAN connectivity. We do also have extension to cloud services, so you can extend MX deployments to IT services located in AWS or Microsoft Azure with site-to-site auto VPN to a virtual MX in either Azure or AWS. You can then leverage SD-WAN on VMX the same way as a physical MX for optimal path selection to IT services that are hosted in AWS or Azure. VMX is actually managed just like any other physical MX in the dashboard once it's been deployed on an AWS EC2 instance or an Azure virtual machine. In terms of performance, you'll get up to 500 megabits per second VPN throughput to VMX, and because there is no hardware device for VMX, only a license is required. So it's incredibly straightforward to go ahead and set up and configure SD-WAN policies. So you can just define acceptable performance thresholds. You can then go ahead and select from a built-in list of categories and applications the application that you do want to set up an SD-WAN policy for. And then you can go ahead and just very simply select your preferred uplink and then when failover should occur. So really what we're doing here is we're telling the network what to accomplish rather than actually exactly how to do it and what to do. So really by virtue of that, this is one of the very first examples of intent-based networking. So you're really describing your intent by creating these SD-WAN policies to the network, and then you're allowing the network to figure out itself which VPN tunnels should be used to satisfy the intent that you have described to the dashboard. So in this way, you can go ahead and choose smart WAN paths to suit your own business. You can have dual active VPNs, so you can load balance VPN traffic over two WAN links. You can have policy-based routing where you can select your preferred path for traffic based on protocol, port, source, and destination IP or even application. Or you could have dynamic path selection, which is the ability to select the best VPN tunnel for traffic automatically based on performance. Meraki SD-WAN is as simple as all of our products. It's a simple, all-inclusive licensing model. You have the enterprise license plus hardware. So it's a one-to-one ratio of licensing and hardware. And licensing is available in a few different durations, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 10-year durations available. Includes things like centralized management, with network-wide visibility and remote troubleshooting tools, over-the-web firmware, and security updates, 24/7 enterprise support and warranty, and also all features are included standard. We don't have any per feature licensing. So Meraki SD-WAN is available on the standard enterprise license. However, we do also have with the MX, of course, the advanced security license, which gives you access to all your enterprise license features, but also things like content filtering, advanced malware protection AMP, Snort IPS, IDS, geography-based IP firewalls as well. An important thing to note, if you are going to be setting up an MX in HA mode, so high availability mode, you actually don't require a license for that. You simply need the hardware device. That's all. So let me flip over to my web browser now and take a look at a live demonstration of the Meraki dashboard in action. So what I'm going to use for today's demonstration purposes is actually our very own Meraki network that we have deployed at various locations around the world. So as I log into the dashboard, this is the very first view that I see. It's a really nice overview on Google Maps showing me where in the world we have cloud-managed IT locations. So let's drill down into a network with an MX SD-WAN and security appliance. So let me go ahead and just search for security here. Let's drill down into our Meraki San Francisco security network. So remember, the building blocks or the framework of Meraki SD-WAN is built by establishing those site-to-site VPN tunnels. So let's take a look at how simple and straightforward it is to create site-to-site VPN connectivity between MXs. So here we're looking at an MX that we already have deployed within the dashboard. It's an MX 450 at our San Francisco location. We can see from the schematic here both Internet 1 and 2 are connected. So this is WAN 1 and WAN 2. So let's go ahead and create site-to-site VPN tunnels. Go to hover above Security and SD-WAN, configure site-to-site VPN. So the first time you come to this menu, you will probably see the type as off. Now, all you need to do in order to create site-side VPN with Meraki is go ahead and just choose your topology, whether you want to create a mesh VPN where all MXs and all sites essentially then are connected with all hubs and dependent spokes, or whether you want to create a hub and spoke topology where a VPN tunnel is established with a selected hub. So if we wanted to create a hub and spoke topology, we can go ahead and just select spoke here, and then we can go ahead and add a hub that we want to connect to, and then you can go ahead and just choose an MX network from the drop-down list. You can then go ahead and choose which local networks you want to have available for use on the VPN, but that's it. That's all we need to do. We've now gone ahead and set up site-site VPN with Meraki. That's all you need to do. So once we have that set up, we're actually now monitoring the performance of those site-site VPN tunnels around every second for jitter, latency, packet loss, and MOS scores. So I can go to Security and Sd-Wan, Monitor, and VPN status. Leave this page. So if, for example, I wanted to take a look at the performance of all the site-side VPN tunnels between the San Francisco appliance here and another location that we've connected up with site-side VPN, I can do so very easily. So let's say, for example, we want to take a look at the performance between the Meraki San Francisco security appliance and our Meraki London office. So I can go ahead and select that. So here now, we're looking at all the site-side VPN tunnels that those two locations have between them. So they have 4 site-side VPN tunnels, WAN 1 from San Francisco to WAN 1 on the Meraki London appliance, WAN 1 in San Francisco to WAN 2 in the London appliance, and vice versa. So that delivers 4 site-side VPN tunnels. And over the past 2 hours, we can take a look at latency of those tunnels, jitter, loss, and MOS scores. So this is just a look at the data that we're collecting in the background to make intelligent decisions about which WAN link applications should choose. So let's go ahead and create those application SD-WAN policies. So let's go to Security and SD-WAN, configure SD-WAN and traffic shaping. So if we scroll down the page a little bit, we've got SD-WAN policies. So SD-WAN policies apply over VPN traffic, of course. So I'm going to ignore the first little bit for VPN traffic and preference. I'm going to go ahead and outline a custom performance class. And so this is just a way to go ahead and apply thresholds for a certain application. So I can create a new custom performance class for, let's say, for example, Office 365, which is very much talked about when you look at SD-WAN. So I can go ahead and give it a maximum latency of 100, jitter of 20, and a maximum loss of 3. I'm actually logged in using read-only account, but if I was logged in as my admin account, I'd be able to save that, and then when I go into add a preference, I can go ahead and choose Office 365 in all these application categories that we have built in. So Office 365 would be in productivity and Office 365. So I've now chosen Office 365. Now I can say policy, preferred uplink. So if we say, for example, WAN 1 is MPLS and let's say WAN 2 is broadband, I can go ahead and say always choose the MPLS link, have that as the preferred link, but fail over to other available links if performance is poor. Now, how do we know the performance is poor? Because if I hit the drop-down menu here, if I was logged in as my admin and I'd save that performance class Office 365, it would appear in this drop-down menu for me to select, and I could go ahead and select Office 365. So then whenever Office 365 needed to be transferred from our London San Francisco location, it would always check against the performance criteria of the VPN tunnels in WAN 1 if they were met, and if they were met, it would use WAN 1. If they weren't, it would look for another path automatically. That's how simple and straightforward it is to create SD-WAN policies. Now, another use case for SD-WAN is to go ahead and make intelligent decisions about which uplink should be used for things like VoIP traffic. VoIP traffic is very sensitive to degradation in link performance. So if I go ahead and create a performance for VoIP traffic, go to add policy here, and let's go to add, let's choose VoIP and video conferencing, and let's just say all VoIP and video conferencing. And now I've got this category in here that's called best for VoIP, and that's built in. So I can go ahead and just choose best for VoIP. And now what this is going to do, it's going to be monitoring all available links and monitor their MOS scores. MOS scores are a measure of the link's ability to transport VoIP traffic. So whichever one has the best MOS score at that point in time, it will automatically choose that link. Not only that, should the performance of the link that's been chosen at that point degrade such that it becomes the second or third best link to be using, it will automatically flip over to the best performing link during that call without any degradation in terms of dropping the call. So that's how simple and straightforward it is to set up and configure Cisco SD-WAN powered by Meraki. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. So I'd like to now talk a little bit about why Meraki SD-WAN. Well, Meraki SD-WAN is the easiest and simplest SD-WAN available to manage and deploy. So in terms of going ahead and deploying Meraki SD-WAN across an organization, let's say for example that organization has 100 locations, all you would need to do is go ahead and ship out 100 MXs to each one of those locations. It's not necessary to have a skilled IT person needed at any one of those locations. It's just a one-time remote web browser-based configuration that's required, and we do also have configuration templates to simplify large multi-site deployments, as well as the ability to choose provisioning using our APIs to make that even more straightforward if you do have a customer with thousands of locations. So in this way, there's no pre-staging required or any on-site configuration. And it is centralized management. So once you've got ahead and deployed that, you can go ahead and configure those SD-WAN policies that I just demonstrated. You've got manageability, scalability, and combination of the first two delivering cost savings. It's a turnkey installation and management. It's always integrated with the latest up-to-date features. Whenever any one of these devices has an update available, it'll just happen automatically, or there is the option for IT teams at that organization to go ahead and schedule those updates or stagger them out, choose which firmware version they're on, all that good stuff. The architecture scales from organizations just from small branches to extremely large networks. We have Meraki SD-WAN customers with thousands of networks, and overall it reduces operational costs. We've done studies to show that Meraki technology reduces operating costs compared to traditional technology by around 90%. If you're interested in more information and background about that, point customers as well as take a look yourself, meraki.cisco.com/TCO. And it is future-proofing the initial investment, not in just SD-WAN, but this applies for across the portfolio. So here are just examples of features we've pushed out through firmware updates. If I was a customer at the beginning of this timeline and I'd purchased any one of these Meraki solutions, by the end of this timeline, I would have spent $0 additional dollars and still had access to all these different features. So if I was a wireless customer, for example, things like device-based group policies for iPads, Android devices, location analytics, Apple Fastlane support, RF profiles, wireless health, all this was pushed out through firmware updates. On the MX, SD-WAN in particular, we have MPLS to VPN failover, Layer 7 VPN preferences, all was delivered without any additional cost or complexity. And of course, Meraki SD-WAN is much more than just SD-WAN. Because it's delivered by that MX appliance, that appliance is a delivery mechanism, not just for SD-WAN, but very sophisticated and industry-leading security, which is built in with no need for any additional hardware required. So the MX also has the ability to deliver IPS with Snort IDS IPS, which is updated every day, content filtering, where we're monitoring over 4 billion URLs and they're updated in real time. You can go ahead and configure geography-based security, block traffic from certain countries and to certain countries. Malware protection, so we have AMP there with the option to add threat grid. Threat grid essentially is the ability to execute unknown files, which may turn out to be malicious, but in a safe sandboxed environment. And if they turn out not to be malicious, they're allowed in your network. If they do turn out to be malicious, it's fine because they've been executed in a sandboxed environment. Also have automatic updates, so the software and security updates are delivered from the cloud. And I can't stress this automatic updates point enough, because most organizations that are impacted by some kind of security vulnerability will be impacted because they actually haven't upgraded their security threat signatures. With Meraki MX appliances, this is continually happening without the need for any manual intervention from the IT team. We have the ability with the MX to build PCI compliant networks. Now, the cherry on top is actually Meraki Sd-Wan's secret weapon, which is Meraki Insight. And again, that's also delivered by the MX appliance. You can think of Meraki Insight as a software overlay for the Meraki MX that really provides intelligence beyond just the local area network. So we talked about how important SaaS applications are to businesses and how important they're becoming. Now, what Meraki Insight does is it tracks the performance of cloud-based applications traveling not just through VPN tunnels, which is what SD-WAN is looking at, and the performance of those VPN tunnels, but also the public internet. Now, this becomes important for customers that are looking to have a local internet breakout. Local internet breakout is where the applications are going from the branch site itself via the public internet directly to the application server. So Meraki Insight has both of those covered. And so we're able to then provide end-to-end visibility for SaaS application experience. So broadly speaking, at a high level, applications could experience degradation either on the local area network, your wide area network, which is your ISP, or the server itself where the application lives. And that may well be on the other side of the world. But Meraki Insight, if there is an issue with a particular application, will pinpoint exactly where the degradation is occurring, either on the local area network, wide area network, or server. If it's an issue on the local area network, you have the whole of the Meraki dashboard to help you figure that out. If it's an issue on the wide area network, it's a quick call to your service provider to raise a support ticket. If it's an issue with the server itself, again, it's a quick call to the application provider to raise a ticket there. So in this way, it really does accelerate IT at your customer and reduce the time to resolution, as well as ease the migration to SaaS applications with simplified troubleshooting. So I described this earlier on. You can very easily pinpoint application performance issues in minutes. So let's say, for example, the question is, where's the issue and who should be contacted? Well, with that overview of the status of the LAN, WAN, and server, in this particular instance, you can very easily see that there's an issue on the server. And so using Meraki Insight, an IT admin can immediately tell which point in the network is failing and causing the degradation. And in this instance, it's the server, so they can go ahead and raise the issue with the application server provider. Other question, what's the exact reason? Where's the evidence? So you can actually go ahead and drill down into the specific evidence behind the server being the root cause of the issue. So within 2 clicks, the admin can understand the exact reason and drill down to generate the specific evidence for the poor performance. And Insight even suggests the root cause of performance issues autonomously. Included within Meraki Insight is a feature that we call WAN Health. So this is an at-a-glance view of the health of all MX uplinks across all sites. So let's say, for example, you have 1,000 MXs deployed across 1,000 different locations. Now, it would be great to have one view of all of the locations' WAN links on the dashboard, which is exactly what this is. So if you've got 1,000 locations, each one of those may have 2 or 3 even WAN links. That's a potential of up to 3,000 WAN links that an IT admin is expected to monitor and manage. So they would all show up in one page in the Meraki dashboard. So you can then quickly identify down uplinks, including cellular, across all the locations. You can easily monitor signal strength for cellular uplinks across all locations, quickly isolate sites with underperforming uplink to make the case for switching ISP or adding cellular as failover, as well as then discover which sites are most reliant on cellular as failover. So you may have instances where the primary WAN link is actually poorly performing or failing over a lot, but you just don't know. With Meraki Insight, you'll be able to see locations that are using the most cellular, and if that's in failover mode, you'll be able to put a case forward for switching ISP or holding your ISP accountable for their SLA. So it's WAN Health that really does then, in conjunction with Web Application Health, perfect companion for Meraki SD-WAN. Let's take a quick look at a demonstration of that in the dashboard. So if I flip back over to the dashboard here, and you can see there's a category here for Insight, and I can go to Web App Health here. So here are all the applications that we're tracking as a business ourselves. Now, if I go into edit for one of these, I can see how to set up the thresholds for what we deem as good performance for these applications. So for example, for Google Drive, you can go ahead and choose a minimum acceptable per flow goodput for that application, as well as choose applications maximum tolerable application response time here. And so these are the two parameters that will be used to judge whether this application has poor performance or not. Now, we don't have any applications performing poorly right now, but let's just go ahead and look over the last day if there were any poorly performing applications. Doesn't look like it. When we do want some poor performing applications, there aren't any, but let's just go ahead and just choose Salesforce as an example. I can go ahead and show Salesforce only, and let's take a look at it for San Francisco security network. I can view trends. So here, over the past day, I can take a look at all the telemetry behind Salesforce on the network, the application itself, wide area network, local area network, clients that have been using Salesforce, servers. These are all the servers across the world that Salesforce connects to, and the domains behind them. And then the uplinks. We have two uplinks here. So this is all the information that's going into basically deciding and providing us that high-level overview of the check marks over the LAN, WAN, and server. Let's take a look at Meraki Insights WAN Health feature. Let's go to WAN Health. So here what we're looking at is the WAN health across all of the Meraki MX appliances that we have deployed in this particular organization. We can see is a high-level overview at the top, providing information here showing us we have 9 links that are good, 0 down, 0 that are performing poorly, and none with any high usage. But we can take a look at uplink status, name of the network, type of uplink that it is, whether it's WAN 1 or WAN 2, ISP if it's known, availability, total usage, average throughput, loss, average latency, jitter, and if there are any affected applications by poor performance. But all this information is available on one screen, so all available links for a particular organization. Let's move back to the PowerPoint. Let's just quickly finish up by taking a look at licensing. So licensing for Meraki Insight is very simple and straightforward. We have sweater size licensing essentially going from extra small to extra large, depending on the MX model you have. And so really to summarize Meraki Sd-Wan, it's industry-leading Sd-Wan meets industry-leading security that's delivered in an all-in-one appliance.